Alvaro,
Here.
Mr. Delgado,
Here.
Ms. Fight,
Here.
Ms. Jackson,
Here.
Ms. Russell,
Here.
Ms. Saratelli,
Here.
Mr. Weaver,
Here.
Mr. Whitley.
Here. Announcement of compliance with the Sunshine Law.
We're in compliance.
Welcome to all visitors and seeing the reading of the minutes. Is there any motion on the floor?
I'll move the minutes to be accepted.
Second.
Ms. Alvaro,
Yes.
Mr. Delgado,
Yes.
Ms. Fight,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Russell,
Yes.
Ms. Saratelli,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley.
Abstain. Okay. Treasurer's report.
Hello, everyone. We have some things to go over. Well, before, a new bill that came up, if you're wondering, is the CDW government. All that is the licensees for Microsoft Office. They're expensive. Microsoft Office costs money. Everything else that I've been signing thus far seems the normal, but if anyone has any questions, let me know.
Which one is that one?
I didn't even notice.
CDW. It might. I don't. Would it be on their master list already? I just signed it today.
Oh.
But it should be there,
It
right?
might not be there, only because that bill just came in and your package you received on Thursday. They were
Right.
on-
So it might
Right.
not be there, but I
Okay.
signed for it, so
Okay.
we'll be approving it. It's Microsoft Office license, the licensing, the registration for Microsoft Office.
How much is that?
Yeah. $8,073. I want to say.
And is that, how long is that for?
Until
Until they-
Microsoft upgrades it.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh,
how
This
it
is for the new-
one-time-
for the new-
It's a one to put the
It's the
Windows 8 or
upgrade.
whatever it is.
It's a one-time
fee.
Right. It's for the new Microsoft Office.
But they upgrade every
To-
couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every couple of months it seems like sometimes. yeah.
Some. As you know, last month we worked on the budget for the next year with Mrs. Key. We already adjusted. Oh,
Is that a budget concern? Because we're on the treasurer's report, right?
yes.
You gotta put that in for,
You have to prove it.
we have to approve
the
the
treasurer.
treasurer's report first,
Okay.
all right?
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the treasurer's report for June 3rd.
I second it.
Ms. Alvaro,
Yes.
Mr. Delgado,
Yes.
Ms. Fight,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Russell,
Yes.
Ms. Saratelli,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley.
Yes.
Gotcha. It just seems like we don't. Either way. All right. So last month we worked on the budget. We already moved line items for the next fiscal year.
Presentation.
Oh yes, motion to pay the bills for. Everyone looked at the bill list for June.
Second.
Ms. Alvaro,
Yes.
Mr. Delgado,
Yes.
Ms. Fight,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Russell,
Yes.
Ms. Saratelli,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley.
Yes. Reports of standing committees.
We have a standing committee.
We have met several. Mr. Delgado?
I didn't meet with the committee, so.
Okay.
We have a search committee.
I understand that, that's what we're going in line.
That's closed session.
But that's a closed session discussion.
Also, the standing committee doesn't report on the committee reports.
Personnel has to get a closed session.
So no reports.
I didn't meet with the committee,
Okay.
so.
Reports for special committees, there's no special committees. report of the library director.
Do you want Mr. Delgado to do his treasurer? He has an addendum to his treasurer. So
Okay.
you want to do that before I do the?
Okay, so like I was saying, when we worked on the fiscal budget for next year, we already moved some light items so that next year, hopefully, we don't have to move as much money in the different categories as this year. However, I talked with Ms. Key today, and there were some deficits still in this year's fiscal year, but there were surpluses in other areas. I'm gonna pass out 2 forms. Or do you want to pass it?
This is the teacher.
That's not 100 dollars.
Now, if you take a look at the one with the boxes, it corresponds with what line items we're moving from. So, for example, cleaning services, there was a surplus of $6,000. That's being transferred into new equipment, to purchase new equipment. Books was $20,000. That's also being transferred to new equipment.
We didn't use up all the books? All the book money?
Well, the new,
We didn't use up all the new book money?
No.
We had surplus.
We had a surplus.
We didn't use up all the new book money.
well, the new equipment, I assume, is the security cameras.
Correct.
Is it what?
Security cameras.
I thought that was a separate budget.
You want to explain that, Mr. Delgado, would you like for me to?
Basically what we talked about is that money, the E-rate money, is money that stays with the library and that doesn't have to go back to the city. So if you don't want to touch as much as that money in case we want to purchase new computers and whatnot. So if we have so Mrs. Key and her accountant were looking at if there was money in the budget left over, we could underwrite the cost of the new
Right.
equipment with money from the
When do
main
we
budget.
have to get
But
that
when we were,
otherwise?
correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm very confused because when the camera, we're talking about the security cameras? Is that what we're
Yes, that's
talking
it,
about?
yes.
When it was presented to the board several times, we were told that it was covered
But
by
Ms.
a different, and it
But
wouldn't
let me-
come out of our own budget,
But let me
especially our
explain to
books.
you, let me explain to you. What has happened, first of all, when you're dealing with budgets, as you well know, you pinpoint the line items as closely as you can. We have done that, we think, but when I presented the video cameras to you, I had to tell you where the money was coming.
I cannot hear you.
I had to tell you where the money was coming from, because at that time. we
Yes, and you
didn't-
did
let me-
not say it came out of our
But
budget.
Ms. Fight, if you give me an opportunity, I'm explaining it to you. We had our operating budget, and we did not want to take it out of there, because at that point in time, we didn't know what our expenses were going to be to the end of the year. So there is a new law in place that I guess was passed a couple of years ago. Any money the municipality gives you gets either spent or you return it to the municipality. So when we had surplus in certain lines, instead of returning it to the municipality, we diverted it into new equipment so that any excess that we had left in the operating budget, we could spend it on cameras. The E-rate money is still there. It is only to be spent on technology type things. If you don't spend it, it doesn't have to be returned. You can have it in case you need it later. But if I don't spend the surplus in your operating budget, then by law, you have to
Donate it
return it to
back.
the city. So
I'm
that is
sorry,
the
it's not
reason.
acceptable. It's not acceptable because if we had enough money to buy more books and more e-books and more e-periodicals, that's where the money should have gone.
But
And
isn't,
at the initial presentation, which went over about 3 meetings, it was very clear that this would come out of a budget that was budgeted out of state money or some special grant. And
but
it was
isn't that
all
money
taken care
still
of.
with us?
The E-rate
That's
money
my
will still be,
understanding.
yeah, the E-rate money will
Right,
still
so
stay.
it's,
the
it's
money
not
that's
that, it's not that, we're saving ourselves money, is what I'm understanding.
We're just moving.
Because we're just moving this money to spend it on something and still going to have the other money for electronic books and other electronics and other technological.
I hear what you're saying,
She
but
wants more books.
since it wasn't presented that way, I'm very uncomfortable with the way it's being spent.
What you can do is take your E-rate money and pay for the cameras, and the money will be, the money that's left over.
And
in
we
the
don't
budget,
want that.
We don't
I mean,
return
Then we
the
have to
city.
return
We
it.
have-
Why can't we spend it?
We can vote on.
We have spent what we can spend. We have spent almost $200,000 on books this year. We had a $20,000 surplus. Budgeting is not an exact science, as you well know. It is not an exact science. We are not buying just to be buying. We bought what we needed.
Have we bought subscriptions to e-periodicals?
Miss Fight, we have all the e-periodicals you want.
Not when I asked.
Miss Fight, all the periodicals that you can think of are in EBSCOhost. And they're accessible from home.
Because when I came in very specifically, I asked for consumers, and I was told we do not have a subscription, e-subscription to it.
If you go onto EBSCOhost, when you go home, on our webpage, EBSCOhost has.
Well, shouldn't it be accessible from the library?
Yeah,
No, but I'm saying it's accessible from the library, but it's also accessible from your personal
Well,
computer.
then I got wrong information when I asked.
I would like to make a motion to accept the transfers as presented.
I beg your pardon. I think I still had the floor.
I made a motion.
I don't care. I still had the floor.
I second the motion.
I still had the floor.
But you can have discussion now.
Yeah,
It's open for
we could
discussion.
still,
The motions have been made, but now you can have discussion.
Wait a minute. You passed out last year some very fat books of laws of Robert's rules. And I think one of the rules says when somebody has the floor, somebody
president-
else may
The
not,
president runs the meeting. Please
somebody
address
else may not interrupt by making a motion until that floor is relinquished. Did you read the book? Did you?
Discussion?
the E-rate money, from what I understand, will still be there to replace computers. If this is a smarter way of doing it, I'm fine with it. But if anyone has any, like if we want to keep discussing it, that's fine.
I honestly think that this is a smart thing to do because we're saving ourselves some money and having flexibility in how we spend it. Where if we spend the money that was allotted in this budget for, or in the other budget for the security system, then we're at a loss for all of the money that we didn't take from here. We have to hand it back and we have nothing. So I'd rather have something than nothing.
Plus, if you hand it back, they'll say, well, they don't need that as much
And then next year,
That's
we won't
exactly,
get it.
that's
So you wanna
exactly
spend
That
all
wasn't
that.
the question I'm saying. I'm saying, why didn't we spend it on books? I'm not saying hand it
Well,
back.
You
that I can't
you
answer.
spent your money on books
that were required.
that were, we purchased books. We had a surplus plus of $20,000. The fiscal year is ending. We have bought all the books that we can buy. One of the things that I was hoping that we would do as a library is always spend money responsibly. We don't purchase for the sake of purchasing. And so I thought it was more responsible if we were discerning enough to say, we have a fantastic collection downstairs. We have the best sellers on the shelf. We bought ebooks, we bought AV, we have a wonderful world languages collection that we have added to this year. And just to repeat myself, budgeting is not an exact science. And so if you want me to take this money and spend it indiscriminately just to get rid of it, the whole point of doing it this way was to
Save ourselves.
since this library has had a flat budget for the last 2 years, and our budget right now is going to be flat, the money that cannot be returned to the municipalities,
The E-rate
namely
money.
E-rate, will still be there if you need it, if you run short. If you don't spend this money in a reasonable way, then we will have to return it to the city. And I am never going to spend money for the sake of spending it. That
So-
is irresponsible.
So essentially,
If you-
Mrs. I'm sorry.
Let me just finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
If there are materials that you feel that this library is lacking, that we should spend the book money on, the $20,000 book money on, then just let me know. We're running out of time, but we can purchase it, and the $20,000 can go back into the book budget, and we can take that $20,000 out of the rate.
Can I ask a quick question? So the money that's transferred and then the money that we get to keep, that money is limited to just technology, or can we buy more books with that as well?
E-rate money is limited to technology.
But we can buy e-books because it is technology. or not?
Well, we can, but it just has to be technology related.
Right.
So usually when we use that E-rate money, we're thinking in terms of software, hardware of some kind. The fines and fees account is also not money the city can take back. Fines and fees are just that. And they're in a separate account. That's also an account that you have with your flat budget. If you come up short next year, you can pull from that, because the only money that goes back to the city is money that came directly from this. In your case, that's $3.9 million last year. And so if I don't reallocate, in any good budget, as I said, it's not an exact science, you are going to find yourself at the end of the year looking at what you projected. And you don't always project correctly. Some lines require more, some lines require less. And so this is the responsible thing at the end of the year that you do as a board. You look at what you have left in your lines, where the surplus is, where the deficits are, and then you make decisions. And decisions are not made in a vacuum. So when I bring it to you, if there's anything that you don't agree with, then you can say, no, we're not touching that line. So it's entirely up to you.
At this point, do you have any books, or if no one tells you anything, would you purchase more books, or would that just?
Mr. Delgado, I am going to say this. I think that we have a reasonable collection development policy here. I have collectors who collect in areas where the need is, and this is what was left. And so, as I said, anybody who ends up with a budget that is exactly the way it is supposed to be, what you predict the budget, it's just a prediction. And so therefore, do you want me to just buy indiscriminately because we had $20,000 left? Or do you want to take that money and put it where it's really needed and save your reserves for when you possibly are going to need it, because they're untouchable?
Right.
How much is in the E-rate account?
I don't want to say off the top of my head, but it's tens of thousands of dollars, probably 50,000.
I come from a
But don't
different,
quote me on that.
from a different perspective, okay? As a reader, and I read books, real books, and I request a lot of books each year. And all my requests have come through. I've never been told, we can't get this or we can't get that, or, you know, there are only 5 of you who really read that particular type of sport book or what. So I really have no complaints with books. I think that they're ordering, you know, whatever is requested. Or that's my own personal,
Any more discussion? All right.
Ms. Alvaro,
Yes.
The proposal, I forgot what it is already.
it's for a transfer.
No, Ms. Dixon, you can't do that. Mr. Whitney, you have to-
The motion was to make the transfers that was presented to the board.
I didn't finish going over everything.
I mean, it was presented, that's the statement, we presented it, it was presented to us.
Just really quickly, basically salary corresponds with there was a surplus in salaries, so that money is being transferred to PR codes, janitorial hardware supplies, office supplies, new equipment. Internet service provider, there was a surplus, so that's being transferred to internet data line. As you know, data is more expensive in today's day and age. And telephone, there was a surplus there, so being transferred to new furniture, which will be new chairs for the computers station. Vinyl chairs that we could sanitize and clean and make sure nothing sticks to it. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Whitley.
Ms. Alvaro,
Yes.
Mr. Delgado.
Yes.
Ms. Fight,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Russell,
Yes.
Ms. Saratelli,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Whitley.
Yes. Report of library director.
Just a couple of things. First of all, since it is my time to report, I would just like to just point out what I briefly talked about in the written report. As you recall, this is the last hard copy of the newsletter that we will be doing. There will be hard copies in the libraries and in the branches, but we will not be mailing out. We're asking for emails and hoping that we can send them out electronically, because remember, in this library, we're always trying to be progressive. And so that's the progressive way to do it, and it's a lot less costly for us to do it that way. Planning is really in full swing for summer reading. And as I mentioned to you before, summer reading is not just for children here at EPL, it's for teens and adults. And so it's for teens and adults. I'm sorry, Mr. Weaver. The physical plant, as Mr. Delgado alluded to, we had money in the furniture line, and I bought as many chairs as I could, because if Mr. you know, Ted, the chairs are filthy, those cloth chairs. You can't clean them, you can't sanitize them, people urinate on them and do various other things.
That's more
on
information than I
them.
need.
We don't want to know the other stuff.
But what you need to know, we throw away chairs because there's been bodily fluids on them that we couldn't clean. So what I have been doing throughout the year is purchasing new chairs. And so one of the things that we did when we reallocated budget funds, I found the money so that we can order enough additional new chairs so that almost every computer station on the floor will have vinyl chairs. And if you don't believe how bad they are, when you walk out of the teen section today, they are filthy. So that, I think, is a very good use of the money. And we will not, well, I'm leaving, so I won't be here to make that decision, but we really should purchase something that can be cleaned easily.
You know what else I think? I think that the use of the Purex is excellent, because with everything that's going around and wiping off the keys of the computers, it's a great idea.
It's been an added expense for us to buy the Purex, but it's been invaluable.
Sure.
Because you're just exposed to so much here. That is my formal report. The only other thing that I would like to say is this is my last meeting. And I leave with very mixed emotions. I think of this as my library, my job, my office. And I said to Mr. Whitley one day, I really hope that the patrons and the board realizes that I bought into this place. This was more than a job for me. And so I thank you for the opportunity. I wish you well. I wish you continued success as you strive to keep this library on the cutting edge, because the people in Elizabeth deserve nothing less. What I have tried to do during my tenure here is keep us moving forward. And I hope that that trend can continue. I had an employee say to me, When you leave Mrs. Key, you should change your cell phone number. Well, I say to you, never. I am always available if something comes up that you don't understand, you need the history of it. You feel free to call my cell phone and I will answer. And that is because it was more than a joke. And again, thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you
It'll always be a part of you, you know that.
absolutely.
And we thank you for your service, Ms. Key.
You're very welcome. And that's my report, Mr. Whitley. And I kept it together. Because I'm very emotional about this.
No.
Well, come see me on August the 30th to watch me bawl.
Reading up communications. Doing no
Are there
communication.
any communications?
Back to business.
You know what do we have?
It's Tyco.
Oh, Tyco, but that doesn't come under communications. That will come under security.
Unfinished business.
Security, we'll start with security. You know, this was, Mr. Weaver, this was supposed to be an uneventful meeting because it's my last one, but there's no such animal. I must share with you, and Ms. Saratelli, I hate to have to tell you this, but we ran into a little problem with the security system. And I really, I always try to give the staff credit, because let me tell you, any success we have here is just a small part. It's Dorothy Key, and the big part is the staff. We have a fantastic staff here. But Mr. Lewis, who is our new head of maintenance, came to my office when we were preparing to have the equipment. It was being delivered, and we were preparing to have it installed. And so he said, Mrs. Key, I noticed something, and I want to bring it to your attention. When the equipment, because it's all downstairs, when cameras and the servers were delivered, he said the person who delivered it wasn't in a Tyco truck. It was an unmarked truck. That's unusual. The person was by themselves. And so he said, could it possibly be that they're using a subcontractor instead of Tyco technicians? And I thanked him very much. And I said, Mr. Lewis, I am so glad
That
you
was very
deemed
astute of
that important. And so I immediately got on the phone with Tyco. And I explained to them, no, I asked them point blank, are you using subs on this job? And he said, yes, we are. And I said, why don't we know that? It is called full disclosure. And my question to you is, what determines when you use Tyco technicians and when you subcontract the work out? And he said it's a business decision. And I said this is a business decision. No work will start here until I further investigate. So I put a kibosh on the project. I called the law department. I called Mr. Whitley as the president of the board, and his feeling was that the whole board needs to know what is happening, so there were no decisions made, which is why I'm bringing it to you today. And let me tell you what the legal opinion was. The legal opinion was, if they agree to use Tyco technicians, there's really no reason not to proceed with the project. For me, to be honest with you, I was perturbed because, will there be something else that we don't? I hope not. But I said to my contact there, I said, what I need from you is, in writing, something for the board that speaks to the fact that if we proceed with this project, you will be using Tyco technicians. Nothing has changed in the project, the same equipment will be used, but we're not having a subcontractor doing it. We will be having Tyco technicians do it. So really, it's a board decision.
May I just ask something?
Sure.
Is this actually Tyco equipment, or is the equipment gray goods from Pakistan?
Well, you know what, to be honest with you, I
We don't
think that
know
that's a
that.
fantastic question and one that we're going to vet when we look at the equipment. Mr. Lopez, who is our IT person, is all over this. And so before anything is installed, we will make sure that we have what they say we have.
It's always best to use
No,
the
but I'm
actual
concerned,
technician.
I'm concerned because this is number 2. This is the second one. The first one is the gentleman who presented this and everyone had confidence and all of a sudden was
He left.
It was
gone.
Tyco.
Well,
He left.
no,
Yeah, but he
He left the
Okay.
employee of the company.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, so he was gone, so
Well,
now
see,
we're,
but trust me, Miss Sarah Tower. When I spoke.
I'm sure
with-
you're honest.
When I spoke with Tyco, I was very strident. I said, look, the person that you sent here to present had the confidence of the board because he presented, he was available for questioning, and now, look what's happened. And so this is very disappointing. And when we proceed, everything is going to be in writing.
But it's Tyco saying that they are willing to.
Oh, they are more than willing.
That's what the letter says.
Yeah.
Question, this is a, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. This is a very expensive business. And don't we have a written contract with specifics?
Absolutely.
Well, then if they adhere to the contract, then we're okay. But if they deviate from the contract,
Well, what Ms.
then they're breaking the
already-
But
contract.
what Ms. Saratelli said is true. We just need to make certain, either, we have it written, what kind of server you're supposed to use, what kind of equipment you're supposed to use. We're going to have to be very careful now to make certain that what's on the paper is what is going.
Because they're trying to cut costs.
Well, that means that we're looking at Tyco with the John Stein.
Exactly, exactly.
Well,
You
I
have to be
think-
careful.
You
I
have to
think
do
we
it
have
with
to be
any
careful.
contractor. I mean,
I
if you have
think we
work in
have to
your
be
own
careful.
house, you have to keep
Oh,
an eye on what they do.
Exactly.
My concern with the whole subcontract is insurance purposes.
I don't know who these subcontractors
But, you know-
are. I don't even know if they're
But
licensed.
see, let me tell you, when you have state contracting, you can use subs. But you have to let the
Just
people
locate, yeah.
know
Right.
that you're using subs.
And you would have never known had this other gentleman
Had-
not
Had no
seen
reason,
that.
Exactly.
had
That's what-
no
that's what
reason
bothers
at
me.
all to
That's what
believe
bothers me.
that it was anything but Tyco all the way.
Absolutely.
Good. But I think that was very astute to realize that in no uniforms.
Right.
Oh,
It was an
Mr.
unmarked
Lewis, that's
truck.
why I wanted you
He's
to
a sharp
know.
guy.
I wanted you to know that he put the kibosh on this. And you know what? It was like he was sort of reticent to come and talk to me about it. But I said, Mr. Lewis, that's what we pay you for. You are our eyes, you are our ears, and this is your area. You know about these kinds of things. And that's what made him say, this is not right. Because companies who are using their own stuff, they want to advertise. I mean, if they
Exactly.
come and put in a new driveway for you, they want to put a sign
Absolutely.
in front of your yard. And so I prefaced all of my comments because I wanted you to know that Mr. Lewis was on the job. This is your new maintenance supervisor. On the job, observant, and stopped this whole thing.
Good.
In fact, you know, the law states that you have to have on your truck your name and your phone number of, am I correct, of any company. So even if you have someone at the house
True,
and somebody
yeah.
comes with, it's no good, you know?
For all we know, this could have, you know, I don't know who.
Could have blown up in our face.
Cablevision, when they installed my thing, they used a subcontractor
Right.
first. Nothing worked. Everything was horrible. When they sent the actual technician from Cablevision, it was like two simple things, but the two simple things didn't allow it to work because the subcontractor just didn't know. So that's why I get very uncomfortable when I hear
Me too.
Well,
subcontractor.
what we paid for, Mr. Delgado, was Tyco.
Right.
That's right,
That's what we paid for.
we contracted
We
with them.
contracted Tyco. We didn't contract a subcontractor. If you were gonna use a subcontractor, we needed to know what their credentials were. And we needed to be able to say thanks, but no thanks. The thing that I'm happiest about is that the project did not get underway.
Right.
But we have their stuff in our basement.
Our stuff, their stuff is here in position. and
So it's in
possession
their,
is not
but it's in their
yet.
interest to now actually,
It's
We
in
haven't
their-
paid for it yet, have we?
Oh, we
No.
don't pay for
We don't
anything
pay
until
till
Oh,
it's
it's
finished.
open
they
already,
don't-
right?
Mrs. Key does not.
No, it's the law,
Mrs.
municipality.
Key, this may sound very trite, but because Mr. Lewis did something really so important, could we put a nice letter in his file thanking him?
That's it, if the board would like
Sure.
to do that, not a.
I'm fine with that.
Sure.
I'm grateful that he did that.
Very grateful.
I think it is important to tell people when they do well,
Oh,
as it is
yes.
when you tell them that you
They
didn't do
did
so
so
well.
but
And he done good. He did very well.
But at
And
least
we're
he
humble.
knows, you know what I'm saying?
But he
Somebody
knows
else,
He's awake.
you know, you would just be
he's a,
standing
right,
there
he's
and
awake.
it wouldn't even occur to you, you know. most
Now,
people.
there's one more thing. This Tyco contract has been gone over very carefully with our lawyers.
Mr. Bowen now,
Right.
he vets everything.
So that if Tyco deviates, we really have a legal leg to stand on.
Oh, they're not deviating, because we're gonna be.
Well, they tried.
Well, they
So who
already
knows if
did.
they're gonna try
But
again?
listen to me.
Without letting us know.
Listen to me. Burned once, not burned twice. We will be on them like white on rice. Understand that. IT will be involved. I will be there. I will know the contract, and they are doing nothing here without it being in writing.
But
I
aren't they
just wanna make
responsible
sure-
for maintenance too?
We have a service contract with them, and that is the
And
other
you're not gonna
thing.
be here, so that everything's gotta be airtight.
But let me tell you, your first year service is included
Right.
with the
Okay.
installation. But let me tell you, that's why you as a board, you have to feel comfortable. When I talked to, the attorney, he indicated, yes, they're a good company. The fact that they have a state contract speaks well of them. And if they're going to, our beef was, we don't want a subcontractor. They have agreed not to do that. So his feeling was, proceed.
I don't want them to cut corners at our expense, you know what I
No.
mean, to add to their profit margin.
Well, I don't think that,
You know.
I don't think that that's an unreasonable feeling, Ms. Saratelli.
You know,
Like
you start
what I said.
getting a little,
Our
I'm
beef
not
was
saying
not
they may
that.
be perfectly fine, but the thought already is in here. You have to look and you have to see what's really
But what
happening.
what you need to know, that when we have contractors at this building, Mr. Lewis, who is our maintenance supervisor, we don't turn contractors loose in this building without Mr. Lewis being there. He will be there. Just like Joe Manto, Bird Dog, this exterior renovation. He was there every day. He knew who was on site. He knew what they were doing. He kept a log for me that proved to be invaluable. The same will be the case with Tyco. We will be very much on
I
top
just
of
want to
it.
make sure the equipment is the equipment. It's a name brand, like,
Ms. Sartori, let me hear me tell you that we're gonna do that. We're gonna
Okay.
make sure. IT, Edwin Lopez, that is his forte, especially in light of what has taken place. We will definitely be on top of it.
okay, good.
We will deliver a video surveillance system as they're supposed to. We'll make sure we get it, or else we'll get them.
Our problem with them wasn't that they did or they didn't deliver. Our problem, as I understand it, is they delivered without letting us know that a contractor was doing the work.
They delivered the equipment and they never told us.
That's the
That
problem.
Tyco
with it.
technicians would not be doing the work. That was the problem.
Right.
And I said to the gentleman today from Tyco, this is something the board has to know about, and this is something that the board has to weigh in on. And so you can decide what you would like to do.
We need a
Any more
proposal.
discussion?
I say continue as of right now,
Sure.
and as long as Ms. Key you and the staff stay very much on top of them, and you inform the possible incoming new director about the situation, I think we should be okay.
Well, I think
We'll probably be better off now than we would have before.
we're gonna
because
have,
they-
Right.
we're gonna have to trust Mr. Lopez
And-
and
And now,
Mr. Lewis.
and the
you
fact
know,
that you already
is
got
there.
to them,
Just
there was
Mr. Lopez.
email, you called them right away, I think lets them know that you're not playing games, so. I think.
Oh, they know.
I have seen this in action.
They know I'm not, I mean, I was really very perturbed because that is not, it's just not honest. It's just not honest. But you know what, they're making good on it. And so if the board, I mean, you don't need to do a motion or anything, but if you have, if you are the consensus that we need to, because you've already made a motion to do the work, you don't need to make another motion. But if you say to me, go ahead and continue with the amount of care and,
Yeah, I would say continue and just let us, know if anything comes up in the summer months, just let us know if we have to do something.
Okay.
Angela?
HVAC. HVAC has been an ongoing issue for us. And one of the problems, quite frankly, is that the contractor who has the business has been here for over 20 years. He knows where the Band-Aids are, where the bones are buried. He knows the system. It is an aging system. And it's very difficult to get someone new to come here and bid in a competitive way because it's an old system that needs care and feeding. And so the engineering department, new engineer,
Mr. Loomis.
Mr. Loomis worked closely with me to try to put together a contract that would be open to other bidders. We did that. He worked long and hard with us on that. We put it out for bid. We had the bid opening a couple of weeks ago and we got one bid. And that's Carrier.
Now, is that because of the system itself? Does
Sure
that
is,
have
they don't-
anything that, no, but are other companies not working on this system?
I don't think it's that. I think that it's an aging system and they really do know it. Carrier knows it and they know what they're bidding on. They know exactly what they're bidding on. You have a new contractor come in here who can come in. We did 2 tours. We actually conducted 2 tours for new contractors to come in, look at the system. We were prepared to answer any questions that they had. And we answered their questions and they chose not to
That's
bid.
good.
How many other people came in?
We
That's it.
had a total of 3
Three.
people. And Carrier's one of them. So we had two
Two
other.
other people.
That includes all the buildings, not just this one, right?
The
Rob?
HVAC system is just Maine and Elmore. That's the only ones that we're responsible for. Remember, Catholic Charities does E-Port
Okay.
and LaCourte is the city.
Oh, I didn't know that.
LaCourte, that's the community center.
Right.
And so the
Right.
governance of that, the upkeep of it.
Oh, so they take
Falls
care of the
under
whole,
city.
oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
And so the only building that we are responsible for. So when they bid on Elmora and the Maine.
I always hate only getting one bid, I like.
Well, it's
multiple bids, but-
very difficult. It's like a doctor doesn't want to patch up some other doctor's
Right.
surgery.
Exactly.
You know what I'm making
How do you-
an analogy, but.
How do you, if you don't have another bid, how do we determine that the price is reasonable?
Well,
There is
Always
no
go
other
with the
price.
lowest,
There is no
But
other
there is no
price.
other.
There is no
I know what I'm saying, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, how you figure
There
that
is no
out?
other price,
What have you done in the past? I
unfortunately.
mean, how has that been
It's
handled?
probably always been I mean.
it's the lowest bid, and that's
It's
the only bid.
Only bid.
But now let me tell you where they put in their bid packet. Everything that they gave me is now in the hands of the attorney.
Attorney.
He's vetting it and going through and making sure everything is in order. What I need to request of the board is because you're not meeting again until September. if you can give me a pro forma agreement to go ahead with that contract. If the lawyer comes back and says, Dorothy, all systems are go, all of their papers are in order, the whole 9 yards, we have to have an HVAC contract, and they clear us to go. I would like to have a pro forma vote from you that if all systems are go, the lawyer says everything is in order, we can go ahead with the agreement.
When's the contract up, the current contract?
We have until the end of June.
Oh, good, time
And
for
if-
July.
And if the lawyer says that there is something wrong, if there's a fatal flaw in this packet, that means we have to rebid. And we have to rebid, we have to rebid. Carrier has been very good in that we have to hope that they say, we'll continue on a month-to-month basis while you rebid this contract.
But you did say that the engineer, the city's engineer, changed specs or done like.
What they did was try to level the playing field, if you will. And they did that by, they broke the bid down, the bid proposal down in a different way. It used to be just a blanket bid for preventive maintenance. And so Carrier would usually bid, and they did have the background. What they did was they broke it down. Categories. Preventive maintenance, how much would be spent for things that were not covered under preventive maintenance. What would be covered if it was an emergency situation or an overtime situation. So we really broke it apart. And so we still didn't get the bid. The $25,000 they bid just for the chiller. Because the chiller, which is responsible for the cooling of this building, has to be rebuilt every 5 years. They break it down, put new Freon in it, make sure all the inner workings are ready to go. We are just keeping our fingers crossed that it will get us through the summer because it needs to be done. But now is not the time to break down the chiller. So Art Schaffler, who has been a rep here from Carrier for probably 20 of those 20 years, he knows the system. And I said, Art, you know the demand is going to be in July and August. Are we going to make it? And he said, we
In
should be
September,
fine.
I think September is gonna be a cooker too.
So we should be fine, but come fall, we are gonna have to come up with $25,000 just for the chiller.
Do we have a high energy efficient coolant system?
We have a high
Not if it's
energy.
20-some-odd years old.
I understand.
Listen, I
antiquated.
have a conversation.
It's antiquated.
Yeah, it's antiquated. I had a conversation with, I understand the city is doing solar panels and things
Right.
like that on city buildings. Because this building, it can be considered on Elmora because it doesn't have the historic.
Got it, I got it, yeah. Designation.
So we're hampered because of that?
For this building.
After we put that fancy
For
roof
this
on.
building. You gotta be specific.
No,
You can't
I
make
was
the change.
afraid,
Just you can't do
that,
it.
well,
Asked, I've had conversations with trying to see if it was feasible.
I know sometimes you'll see the solar fields and they'll have them on the ground.
Right.
You really don't have the space.
we don't have
Space.
rights here,
Yeah.
we have the
But,
parking lot.
talking about upgrading and antiquated equipment, I understand that Freon is being phased out because of the ozone layer. So who knows when they're gonna say it's against the law to use Freon? Then
Well,
we're really up against
They
it.
probably, and I don't know this is just talking off the top of my head, probably what will happen is the same thing they've done with ADA. When you make the change, then what you purchase will probably not be able to use Freon. Our system uses
I think,
Freon.
but
you'd
even
be
now, it's a
grandfathered
different
in.
type of
It's a different
Freon
type.
they're using. Yeah,
Depends how they write the law.
they've cut back, because I have a home system with the
Usually,
the
They change
HVAC guy, he
it.
said, I can't
Yeah.
use XYZ, so what you have to do is you have to set it a few degrees colder to get the same output, you know, it's
Well,
crazy.
more
Yeah.
stuff.
When other bidders come in, when other companies come in and they see an old system and they really don't want to
No.
get involved with maintenance and they want to sell you they want to put in a whole new
Right.
system, and that's how companies work,
But
really. So
So we're not
that is-
bidding for a new
grateful.
system.
Yeah,
We're
right
bidding
now
for
we're not, but
maintenance.
it's something I think that as a board.
We have to
And
consider.
and
we have
it
to
will,
consider
it will
as a-
be, it will be
capital
At
Capital
eventually.
some point,
project,
it's
yeah.
gonna have to.
Eventually it will be. So we're, you know,
That
we're
sounds
holding
expensive.
on,
Yeah.
It is
season
expensive.
by season.
Because that's basically what we're doing, is putting Band-Aids and allowing
It's a
them to
bandage,
Band-Aid.
it's a Band-Aid
Is the
situation.
proposed price for that they came in at, how far off is it from last year's?
It's different, because in years
changed.
past,
They set it up.
in years past, all we had them bid on was the preventive maintenance.
Right.
But we gave them an opportunity to also say, looking at the system, I think that you're going to need additional work beyond preventive
Right.
maintenance. And this is what we are projecting you might need. That projection might never be used. But the way Mr. Loomis explained it is you can't expect a company who knows nothing about the system
Right.
to come in and then be surprised and you have no money set aside to repair. So,
I say yes.
So we need a motion to approve.
Do we need a-
and advance
No, we
the-
need a consensus.
we need a motion. If
Oh, I
it
thought you
act-
said we don't need.
No, I said I need you to do something pro forma
Pro forma.
for me. Just to say, a motion that says, if the legal department says everything is decent and in order, then the board agrees to move ahead and award the contract to Carrier. That's what I need from you.
Motion to, if the legal department comes back and everything checks out, to give Mrs. B the authority to go ahead with the carrier contract.
A second.
No?
Sorry.
I can get all that done.
Ms. Salguero?
Yes.
Mr. Delgado?
Yes.
Ms. Fate?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Russell?
Yes.
Ms. Saratelli?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Thank you.
The audit?
The audit. The basic audit has been done. The auditor has come in. They've come in and they have vetted what they need to vet, and I'm waiting for, they sent a draft of the audit. And now we're waiting to get the final copy. What, I won't be here, but as I've said to you in years past, we've had clean audits. We've had clean audits. But at any time, if you want the auditor to come in and go over the audit with you, they will come in. And that might be something that would be helpful to the new director because, you know, I've been doing it for 8 years and I pretty much know what to expect. But it's a way also for the new director to hear what happened with the audit, what needs to be addressed, what their concerns are.
And that's it, what is it?
And the final audit will come in printed form, so when you come back in September, it will be in this office. It will be here.
The leak at Elmore, they were gonna look at the gutters or something. What's the latest on
Would you
that?
like some good news?
Good news,
Yes.
good
Would you
news,
like-
Mr. Weaver.
Would you
Good
like some
news.
good news? You're supposed to say yes.
Yes.
No.
Say yes, yes.
Let me tell you, Mr. Petita is in charge of all the public buildings in the city. And usually we do everything on our own, but he had the contractor that the city engages to come and look at the Elmora leaks, and they're going to have them take care of it. He will be there on Thursday to repair those leaks, and that's it, board. That's it, that's it.
Did we have
They're
a lot of
going to-
damage? Because I saw it was raining in. Was there a lot of damage? Because I saw the librarian trying to so hard to save the books.
Right.
Well, we weren't concerned with that. We were concerned with whether the rafters or whether the
That
thing
too,
was
but I
going
was
to collapse.
concerned with all of
But
it.
apparently it's not that bad, and apparently it's okay.
According
and he's
to
gonna-
the roofer from the city,
city.
that it needs repair. It will take him a couple days to do it. He will be there Thursday morning at 8:30. Mr. Lewis will be there with him. Because as I said, whenever we have contractors, our maintenance supervisor is on site. Mr. Lewis will be on site with him to see.
That's not what I asked. Was there a lot of damage to the books and things?
There was no damage to the books. The
Oh,
books
good.
are the plastic over
Yeah, I know
the
they
books.
tried very hard. but I
And
They did. They
as
took
far
care of it.
as the water that came in, it's going to be important for those tiles to be replaced.
And
that were
Mr.
damaged.
Excuse me, and I'm sorry, and Mr. Weaver, it's going to be fixed on their dime, not ours,
The cities.
for a
The
change.
city-
That's why I said
the-
good
the-
news.
The roofer contracted to the city is going to do the work.
Okay, new business?
Oh, bookmobile? What's next, Mr.?
Bookmobile.
Bookmobile? Oh, bookmobile. I'm going to just tell you, I had no time to do anything in the way of gathering information about the bookmobile. Just didn't get to it.
All right, that'll, one of the things we'll put in abeyance and we'll,
Well, what will happen is, when you come in September, you will have information from me about what I've been able, I'm not just dropping it, that's not what I do. I just couldn't get it for you today. But when you come back for your September meeting, trust me, I will have information
Okay,
for you
that's good.
about how to proceed with the book.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Why don't we meet during the summer?
It's a board decision. I don't know why. That's what I inherited, Ms. Russell. It's something, it's something that is
Why don't we
open for
meet during the summer?
Oh.
No, it's something that could be open for discussion. I mean, Ms. White, you were on the board longer than
It
I've
has
been.
always been the summer hiatus. But when there was important business, the board was called to
Special
order. The problem was the board didn't show up.
well, there goes the summer.
But you can.
But we have a different board now,
Yeah.
which is much more conscientious. So that's an up.
And if you have to call a meeting, you just need to let me know. I have to advertise it for Open Meetings Act, and I think if you needed to meet, you would. You don't have a scheduled meeting, we don't advertise it, but if you have to have a meeting, we just advertise it and you call the meeting if necessary.
And committees can still function.
Committees can
Yes,
function,
oh, yeah.
because you don't have to.
Right.
But how do you do, like, if we don't approve the bills, how do the bills get paid for 2
September.
months? and stuff?
September.
Do it all in September.
Do it all.
So that they make sure
July,
people wait
August,
until September to get
July,
the
No,
bill?
Mr.
Oh, I'll be in.
Delgado will be
No,
in.
Mr.
I'll be in
Delgado.
September. Yeah,
The approval
Pays the
of
bill.
The approval.
But, so
of it.
you're signing them before the approval?
yeah.
You could be in big trouble.
But we have
Most
a
of the
big
bills,
packet in
most of the
September.
bills are
Right.
routine,
Yeah.
routine.
Any big bill, I would
Right.
probably, I would ask Ms. Key to.
There's no way
or
that I
ask her to
can
really
even
call the
create a
board.
big bill without board approval.
Yeah,
Right.
So I would have to hold the board before we did anything that.
like we did last summer.
For the roof.
Our leaky roof.
And the auditor was not happy that we did that. Auditors never want to hear that you do anything in an emergency. They always want you to get at least 3 quotes.
Right. But if the roof is falling down and you're in dire straits, you know, and it has to be done, they're not interested.
But no, they really.
But they know that.
Because they want you to always to get the best price,
Right.
but we really had to act on that last year,
Yeah.
as you well know. So we did.
That's it?
Comments from the public.
Comments from the public?
Public?
Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
All right. We need a motion to go into closed.
I don't know if the Ted has.
No, he said no.
Oh, no.
He said no.
Oh, oh.
Motion to go into closed session?
Ms. Alvaro?
Yes.
Mr. Delgado?
Yes,
Take care, Ted.
Ms. Fight?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson? Yes. Ms. Russell? Ms. Aratilli?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Whitney?
Yes.